Hi everybody and welcome to a Heel Heat Top 10. My name is George Coles. This is my tag team partner, Rocky Johnson.
Soul Man, super bad. Gears, everybody. Thanks, Tony Atlas.
And this week's Top 10 is the Top 10 in the history of TNA. I'll go ahead and let you start with the first one since I know he's one of your personal favorites.
Number 10 goes to a multiple-time TNA champion, also multiple-time WWE champion, world champion, Jeff Hardy. I mean, Jeff Hardy, part of my personal feelings aside for the guy, he at one point was one of the best high flyers in the business and really had a little part of the Attitude Era.
And he had two really successful runs in TNA. The current run he's in now, where he's booked as pretty much their top star, and the first run where he was pretty much one of the top stars as well.
Yeah, you know, for what it's worth with the whole situation he had with the match he had with Sting in his first run, other than that, I did like him as a heel.
And then we have, going off of that, our number 9 guy, a guy that's been there pretty much since the beginning, Abyss, a.k.a. Joseph Park. What is there not to like? He's won every championship they have. I mean, the guy is the resident monster of TNA. He's kind of TNA's Undertaker.
He is. You know, you can knock this Christopher Park character of his all you want, but honestly, I think it's gold, and I think it's genius. You have on one side of the coin, here's this unstoppable monster with no fear. Then you have the weak, you know, corporate guy.
Yeah.
You know what's not to like about this guy? He pulls them both off perfect too.
And he's one of the guys that brought a real hardcore style into TNA, and it worked. His matches, his hardcore matches, really worked. Against guys like Raven, Sabu, AJ Styles, Jeff Jarrett, all the way up and down the TNA roster of history. He's had good matches with pretty much everybody.
Our number 8, the guy you just mentioned, one of my favorite of all time, Raven. This guy here is the thinking man's wrestler. You know, throughout his whole career as Raven, I mean, he's had other other personas before, and I liked all them before, but Raven to me was night and day. As Paul Heyman said it when he first came up with Raven, not Heyman, but when Scott Levy first came up with Raven, he was wrestling's Nirvana at that point. In the time of hair bands, then you have Raven. You know, he was their Nirvana. But here at TNA, he was one of the very first big names that came in the company when it first opened up.
Stars, yeah. And there was a big thing to be made about his chase for the NWA title. I mean, it was a major storyline in the early years of TNA, and it ran, and the fans really got behind him. And he's been in and out of TNA several different times. He's had several runs, the most recently being part of EV2. But I mean, he's a guy. He's a world champion. He's led a couple different factions there. I mean, you can't really say anything bad about Raven.
Oh, he's one of the guys that really helped build
them on the map.
Put them on the map. Put a guy like CM Punk on the map. You know, there's nothing you could say about Raven's in-ring ability. I mean, he might have had personal demons or anything like that in his past or now or whatever.
His feuds with guys like Abyss and AJ Styles help build their career and make them look more credible.
Exactly.
Now, our number 7 guy is a guy that's also been there pretty much from the beginning, Bobby Roode. Started off as part of Team Canada, went into being part of Beer Money, probably the best tag team in TNA's history, and now has gone on a solo run and back into a tag team with Austin Aries. I think he's great. I think Bobby Roode's a guy that probably doesn't get enough credit. He's their longest reigning champion. I mean, the guy's a hell of a wrestler. He's a hell of a talent. The only reason he's not a little bit higher on this list seems to be TNA's reluctancy to push him higher themselves.
And that's it. You know, this guy here he's wrestling gold. I mean, I've seen some of his first matches back when he was doing jobs on WWE, the Velocity matches. But there was just always something about the guy. And now you take a look at him, fast forward, 10 years down the road, he's their champion, longest running champion.
The it factor.
He is. You know, and the thing about him, a lot of people kind of compare him to Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's funny though is, you know, he got big, cut his hair short, then Triple H cuts his hair short. You know, but all the things aside, I was always behind Bobby Roode's character.
Yeah, I thought he was really good.
Now our number 6 guy we just mentioned too is the other half of Beer Money, James Storm, also part of America's Most Wanted. You know,
and the only reason he gets a little bit of the edge above Bobby Roode is because of that, because he was part of the two, I would say, the two most successful TNA tag teams. And also, when Bobby was in Team Canada, his push was a little inconsistent, in my opinion. The whole thing they did with Tracy Brooks and all. And James Storm is a guy I think that right now should be one of their main stars, but their booking with him is so inconsistent that it's holding him back from being that.
The thing is with him, he's only had a weak title run, but it was a title run nonetheless. Yeah. It was a nod. Right now, they're putting him in a program against AJ Styles, which I think that's something that he needs. Yeah. Like we were saying, he's been with these jobbers and not really having great matches on their end, but this guy comes out and gives 110% every night. When you watch a James Storm match, he's giving it his all.
I think he's someone that the fans really connect with, especially when they run in the southern venues. I think he's someone that the fans really connect with. He has a good connection. He's, like I said, he's part of the two most successful tag teams in TNA's history. I mean, he's a tremendous talent. Now, our number 5 guy is a cyborg. So I don't even know if he belongs on the list. The Wrestling Machine, Kurt Angle. Probably TNA's biggest signing ever.
Their biggest acquisition?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, bigger than any of the other guys. Christian, that came in, the Dudley Boys, Jeff Hardy, Raven. I mean, all of them kind of got picked up towards the end of their careers or in down points in their careers. Kurt Angle came right at the height of his career, came in, gave him a real legitimate surefire. I mean, he's been there 6-7 years now, right? Mm-hmm. From the time he left the WWE and jumped ship to TNA, he was already a WWE Hall of Famer when he left, and he will be if he never goes back even.
And the thing is, I mean, they've always put him, whatever the hot topic of the company is, he's involved in a storyline. Right now, it's the Aces and Eights.
Oh, it's true.
He was the leader of the Main Event Mafia.
Oh, that's damn true.
I mean, he's the first guy to beat Samoa Joe.
That's real.
You know. And the thing is, this guy never puts a shit match on. Yeah. And he brings the best out of everybody. Like I said, his matches with Samoa Joe are legendary. His matches with Jeff Hardy were great. His matches with not Raven, but Storm. You put Angle in the ring with anybody, you're getting a great match.
Plus, we had a dream match the first time him and Sting wrestled each other.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy, I think he's their biggest acquisition ever.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Now, one of their biggest names they've kept since the beginning of the company, one of the biggest helps, comes in at number 4. And I'm talking about Sting. Sting, after the WCW closed their doors, about a year or so later, Sting started, doing the TNA.
Well, it was more about 3 years, actually. Was it? Yeah. He wasn't there right in the beginning. He didn't get there till they went to Spike TV.
I thought it was a couple years before Spike. But anyway, he's been there for a decent amount of time, and he was one of the very first big draws that company had. I mean, it was founded on Jeff Jarrett, but they've always had WWE or WWF at that point, or WCW throwaways at the point. And then you have Sting, a guy that Vince McMahon would have gave his testicle for, and he stays with TNA.
Yeah, and he's along the lines of a Kurt Angle, someone that really gave legitimacy to the company. Sting's a guy that has mainstream appeal. A lot of people that don't watch wrestling know who Sting is. And that's, he's to be said. I mean, if you watch our shows, we're down on Sting's ring work now because he's older and he's an advanced age. But even that, I mean, he came in and he helped out a lot. I mean, he really did. I mean, like we said with Kurt Angle, he put a legitimacy to their show. I mean, if you got a big superstar like Sting, big stars like Kurt Angle, not for nothing, guys like Raven and Jeff Hardy, they're great wrestlers, but they're never going to be the guy, Christian even, they're never going to be the guy that's like the face of your company, where Kurt Angle and Sting could be.
Exactly.
And Sting's been the face. At one point, Sting was the face of the company that was beating the WWE.
What do you say about that?
Sucker.
Trust to know.
Now, our number 3 guy is the King of the Mountain, the founder of TNA, Jeff Jarrett. I mean, the only issue we've ever had with Jeff Jarrett, I've ever had personally, is how strongly he's booked himself at times. Not that he didn't deserve it.
Well, if you take a look at it, you go back to the history of wrestlers that have owned their own company. Fritz Von Erich, him or his sons have been their biggest push. Jerry Jarrett with Jeff with the what was it USWA? Jeff was their face. AWA, Vern.
Yeah.
You know, if you really take a look at it, back in the day, that's how Jeff was raised on it. You know, you own a company, you take the belt. You have kinfolk that are wrestling. If they're good enough, you put the belt on them. There's one thing that Shawn Michaels said about Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was one of his favorite people to wrestle against because Jeff Jarrett can be as athletic as him when Jeff Jarrett wanted to be.
I agree in that. I think Jeff Jarrett, he's a guy, he's pretty much a standard bearer when you talk about championship there, whether it was the NWA champion or later the TNA championship. Jeff was a guy. Again, he gave it, even though he was the owner, he did give it credibility because he's a former WCW world champion that came in there. Like I said, the only issues I have is there were times that he booked himself over other guys that should have went over on him.
Can't deny that.
I mean, but that's the only problem. Other than that, I mean, he's a great worker in the ring. He's got a great persona. He's got a good following too, which brought asses into the seats.
Speaking of guys that bring asses in the seats, this our number 2 guy is one of your big favorites, Samoa Joe. This guy here, I mean, wherever he's been, he's always started off with a decent undefeated streak.
Oh, yeah.
Ring of Honor, how long was his undefeated streak there?
That was a long time.
And in TNA, it was almost, 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years.
And when Kurt Angle debuted, Kurt beat him. But the thing is, their rematch, he beat Kurt. You know, I mean, that's a lot. A guy that's, to beat Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
You know, at that point in Kurt's career, that's saying something. You beat Kurt Angle. And he did, and it was, I mean, their matches were gold. I'm talking about 5-star matches.
And Samoa Joe is one of the guys that came in almost, and I hate to say it because he did wrestle Ring of Honor and all that before. He's one of, I think, the homegrown talents in TNA, if you know what I mean. I do understand he wrestled in Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor, even now, is not on the level of TNA, and everybody comes from somewhere. I mean, if you think about it, Hulk Hogan's not a WWE star, but he's a homegrown talent because that's where we built. But Joe, I think he's a guy that TNA, that basically got his huge push in TNA and ran with the ball. He was an unstoppable monster. Some of the booking decisions they've done since then with him, putting him in the main event Mafia, the Nation of Violence thing, Joe getting kidnapped that we never found out what the answer was. I mean, some of the decisions have been silly, but no matter what they do, you can't look at the guy and go, wow, this guy's an amazing talent.
He is. I mean, this guy here, you look at him.
He's one of the few Grand Slam winners.
He is. You take a look at this guy and you say, man, this guy's probably going to be, if you didn't see Joe wrestle, you see he looks kind of out of shape and stuff like that. You're like, man, this guy here is going to be a joke to watch. This guy is, I hate to say it from steal someone else's nickname, but the guy's phenomenal.
I think, honestly, Samoa Joe, to me, is Taz with size.
Oh, yeah. And more speed.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, he's a fast dude.
Now, before we get into our number 1 guy, we do a little thing on our top 10s called the best to rest. Basically, these are guys that barely made the list, but they were also in consideration. And I'm going to let you start off with the best to rest.
Well, I'm going to start off with one of my personal favorites, Christopher Daniels. This guy here has been with the company since day one, and
well, off and on.
Well, yeah.
Times he left.
But whatever gimmick they gave Christopher Daniels,
he's worked it.
Suicide, Curry Man, the thing, and he gets them over. The situation, what's their name now? Him and Cass's?
Bad Influence.
Bad Influence. That's one of my favorite tag teams. You know, I can't remember. I've always called them Kaz and Daniels. They finally give them a name after they lose the titles.
Speaking of your favorite tag teams, my favorite tag team, Team 3D, showed up on TNA, weren't allowed to be called the Dudleys, used it as part of their gimmick, and they ran with it. I mean, one of the greatest tag teams, the greatest tag team in my opinion in wrestling history, and they, like we said about a lot of these guys, they brought legitimacy to the tag team division.
Yeah, well, another guy, he's never really wrestled tag team in there, but he was tag team in WWE, Christian.
No, you gotta say it right, Christian
Cage. Sorry. But Christian Cage, he came in at the perfect time, got his championship runs, and I liked heel Christian when he had AJ Styles as his lackey.
I think that and the only reason I didn't think we should put him on the list is he kind of used TNA as leverage for WWE to get a better standing in WWE.
Yeah, that might be said, but his time in TNA
was good.
It was good, and he didn't rest on his laurels.
Now, another guy, one of the early stars of TNA, a former teammate of Christopher Daniels, Loki, a.k.a. Senshai, whatever it was he changed it to. A good guy, one of the forebearers of the X Division, one of the guys that I think helped bring the X Division to prominence in the early days of TNA.
Another guy, actually, Daniels' current tag team partner, Kazarian. This guy here, it's just something about the guy, man. This guy here is gold, too.
Yeah. It's taken him a while to get to the point he's at, but now that he's there, when he's finally got it, he's money. He's always been a good wrestler, but he's put the full package together now, and I think he's a guy that could ride the elevator ride all the way to the top if they really wanted him to.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we say anything else, when Hogan came to TNA, that's why they killed a suicide gimmick, because Hogan's like, why is this pretty boy not wearing a mask? Just get him out of this gimmick and let's get him to something fresh. That's one good decision Hogan made. You ever hear me say that?
And last but not least, in our best of the rest, another tag team. I thought they were the future of tag team wrestling. They kind of, due to injuries and not re-signing half the team, the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin's had some knee injuries. Alex Shelley, I think, is currently a free agent, not with any company. But the Motor City Machine Guns, they revolutionized wrestling. They were, between them and I would say the Young Bucks, even Generation Me, they kind of brought an X Division tag team style.
Oh, yeah.
I loved the fact that they worked so cohesively as a unit. It was almost like a Young Rockers.
I really enjoyed it when you talk about the Young Bucks Generation Me. Their matches with the Machine Guns were classics. Yeah. And I wasn't really that fond of the Bucks until they started going against the Guns and really showed their all. Those matches there was never a down moment. I mean, you could go look at some of them on YouTube, or if you have them on DVD. Those matches there was no downtime. It was all action the whole time.
Yep. All killer, no filler.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's what we have for the best of the rest. Now, we want to remind you guys that we have comments to be put down there. If you don't like our selections, if you think we put someone too high, someone down too low, someone off the list altogether, or someone that doesn't deserve to be there, let us know what you think. Put it on our Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where?
Down there.
Right down there in the comments. Now, we're going to go into the number one guy, and Gary, I'll let you go ahead and say it.
Well, we already mentioned him once, about a million times. Number one goes to AJ Styles.
The guy that's been there since the beginning, the guy that was the load bearer in the early days for the X Division, the superstar of the X Division, the superstar of the world title. He's done everything you could do in TNA, to the point where they're trying to find stuff to make it something that he hasn't done, like this new gimmick where he can't wrestle for the championship. I mean, when I think of TNA, I think AJ Styles. I think he's put more classic matches in TNA on than anybody else on the roster. The rivalry with him, Daniels, and Samoa Joe is, I think, the best rivalry in TNA history. His rivalries with guys like Jeff Jarrett, Raven, I mean, all the way up and down this list. He's had rivalries with all these guys. The guy is money. He's right on the ball. I think he's the guy that is the face of TNA. I think at times he hasn't been booked as being the face of TNA, but he should have been.
The guy, and he could play different characters. That's the thing about it. You know, I remember he was Christian's lackey for a little bit. Remember, and that was awesome.
Tomka.
Yep. And then you had where he was their #1 baby face. He was their #1 heel. I liked it when they were with Fortune. They were heels with Flair. You know, this guy is truly phenomenal. And the thing about him is, it always got me. It kind of
He's one of
stuck.
the guys that lives up to his nickname.
Yeah. And you know, the thing that always kind of stuck with me at first, and it bothered me about him, was he grew up not being a wrestling fan. Never really watched wrestling or anything like that until college. But, you know...
Just such a great athlete that it fit in there.
Exactly. I mean, the guy is money. He really doesn't get the credit he deserves at most points.
Yeah, I agree. I think AJ Styles, he's the guy I think of when you say TNA. He's the first person that comes to my mind.
Oh, over Jeff Jarrett.
And that's why I put him on top of him. That's why I thought he should be on top, and I think you agree.
Well, that's why he's there.
Exactly. But basically, that's all we got to say about that. Is there, all I got to say, is there anything you want to add?
That's it, man.
Well, my name's George Coles.
I'm Gary Rhodes.
And this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.